All right, welcome to this month's CDM, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. I've shared in the chat the agenda for today, and the one topic on there is rethinking the approach to the log ignore list in QA. Who put that one there? Ilya, was that you?
Yes, that was me. Um, there is a link to the comment in the PR, which I worked on. I'm not sure if we have the quorum here, but um,
You
uh,
can give it a
so
moment if you're
basically,
waiting for a particular person.
no, I don't think. I think I see Patrick and Casey here. Radislav is also here. So um, uh, I think as far as component leads, we have representation. So this was a pull request which I started because like there was a tracker ticket filed against RBD because one of the health checks or a couple of them were being raised by or during because the upgrade uh, suite or like the job actually runs more than one test, and none of those health warnings were actually caused by RBD. But as I started working on that, I got reminded that it's extremely hard to actually get the health checks to be ignored with the current approach that we have, where there is a string that is added to log ignore list stanza in the YAML, and this is especially hard for the upgrade suite because, like I said, it runs different tests. It runs some Rados tests, some RBD tests, and the person who is who ends up doing that, you need way too many runs and way too many time to kind of flush out all the possible strings that need to be ignored. I've attempted to summarize that in this comment. So basically, the problem is that a single health check, let's say, let's say for the pool being full, it can take 3 to 4. I think one of the examples that I've run into actually took 4 different entries to ignore because what ends up being surfaced in the cluster log is not just the kind of the capitalized name for that health check, in this case pool underscore full, but also various description strings such as like health check details, they're called in the code, where it would say the name of the pool if there is just one pool, or if there are multiple pools, then it will maybe list like 2 or 3 of them, and for the rest, just give the number. And it varies from check to check. There's no kind of common framework because this health check detail or like summary is just a free-form string, and especially when counts are involved, some checks do report everything in singular and just the integer changes. Some checks attempt to also to account for potentially being plural. I gave an example of the monitors, for example. It says mons with no parentheses. For pools, it says pools with parentheses around s. and some places actually also change the verbs. So instead of is, it becomes are. There are other instances of this. So unless if you are going purely by the log file, so you run a job, get some failures, and you look at those. It's very unreliable, and you actually need to look at the code to get a hold of all of those strings, and then you need to be extra careful with how you specify that in the YAML, because this is passed through the YAML to the extended grep tool with extended grep syntax, and the special characters get reinterpreted along the way. So some stuff needs to be escaped, other stuff actually doesn't, because extended grep would treat it differently if it was escaped. So there's all sorts of pain involved. And I actually gave up. I haven't flushed this PR. There were, I think, a couple of checks that are still unreliable, but I did, I think, a total of, I did a few dozen runs to get it to the point where it got merged. And this is why I wanted to propose some ways out of this. And again, they're summarized here in the comment. Before going through that, does the problem statement make sense? Have folks run into this and experienced the same?
Yeah, I definitely have experienced mainly silencing or adding OSD down to the ignore list because we're intentionally marking OSDs down, but then there's health detail related to that doesn't get grouped in with that, and you have to keep iterating on the ignore list. So yeah, I agree, it's time consuming. I kind of like the first solution that you mentioned, task, where we can feed what we want to the task to mute the health warnings. I think that might be useful, since I don't know for sure, but I think that would silence the whole health warning in addition to the detail, right? So I do like that idea, but I'll let others speak.
Yeah, even something as simple as OSD down, it actually requires doing like in all caps OSD underscore down. But then there are some strings where it's just like some number of OSDs down, so you need to do it in like it's a mess. Yeah, so the health ignore list idea is that would be my preferred approach, because this would be based on self health mute command, the way I see it. And that is actually what we expect users to do when they have a health check which they intend to ignore for some reason. Maybe they're not ready to do the required maintenance, and like the maintenance window is in a couple of weeks, or so. We've discussed those scenarios when the health check infrastructure was introduced, I think back in 2018 or 2019, as part of the kind of usability push. And if we were to start, doing the same in the test suites, that would also exercise it. So that's an additional bonus. But the other and yeah, to your point about descriptions, I would expect that it's the entire health check that got silenced based just on its identifier. So taking OSD down as the example, we would just say OSD underscore down, all caps, and that would be enough, or should be enough, so that would be a single entry to get all of that silenced. But the other thing is the item number 3 on this list in the comment, is that we have some health checks which I would argue should not even be raised, and therefore should not be we should not be in the business of ignoring them because they should not be raised in the first place. And this is various various things that I think need to have a grace period. We recently added a grace period for the pool app not enabled health check. It's I think it came up in one of the CDMs for sure, maybe even more than one. And so just a brief summary there is that we don't have a way to atomically create a pool and set an application on it. So a health check getting raised, if it's not under grace period, then it's inevitable. Even if the user is doing this in a script as opposed to just manually, a health check can still be raised if if stars align and the health monitor runs between those commands. The first command would be creating the pool, and the second setting the application on it. So grace period is, we already have precedent for that. I think there are a couple of other examples with relation to some of the monitor. I think the down or one of the monitor health checks has a grace period, which was also added not that long ago. And I think we should do an audit and look at everything, all other health checks, and see if they could benefit from a grace period. And here I provided an example for the upgrade finished. In the upgrade suite, it fires 20 seconds before Ceph ADM gets to run the command that this health check basically requires to run to get it resolved. We should not be wasting time on this, and all of these should be protected, especially checks that are for the various conditions during the upgrade. They should have a grace period of at least 10 minutes, I would say, because an upgrade is often something that gets done in steps, and even if it's a tool that does it, it's still it needs to wait for things and print status updates and all of that. So we definitely need a grace period there. So I see at least two different trackers coming out of this. One for the health ignore list, and the other for auditing the existing health checks for whether they could benefit from a grace period. And I think with that, I will yield the floor for questions or comments.
So a question for you, Elliot. One thing I've observed, although I haven't looked at the code closely about this, is when a health warning is created, oftentimes other code paths are hit that issue cluster log messages. And I guess if we're going to silence a health warning, we also need to audit where we're throwing cluster log warnings or errors, which may be hit even in different places in the code that relate to the health warning, but are also going to cause tests to fail. And that should probably be consolidated if they're separate. At the moment, it's really annoying because it's just, as you know, playing whack-a-mole with the same warning, but 5 different ways of saying it.
Yes, I think, I remember running into example of this. It's like it's obviously like it would be kind of wider effort because the health check code is centralized and I think just in a couple of different files, whereas the cluster log warning or error can be raised from anywhere. But yeah, I think it should be part of that. I don't think it's like I don't think every single health check is like that though. So it's probably just a few offenders that are causing most of the pain, and the approach of a whack-a-mole could actually work, except that it would be us, not doing it repeatedly in various YAMLs, but just doing it once in the code.
Yeah, and I think relating to that, there's probably many parts of Ceph that throw errors or warnings in the cluster log, but really should be throwing health warnings instead. So I would also batch fixing that under this potential project.
Well, yeah, it can be one of the items, but I tend to think of it as like all kind of pretty much independent things, right? So the health, the replacing log ignore list with health ignore list, that's a purely like tautology task work, right? So someone who, like this could be a startup project for someone who isn't that familiar with Ceph, but wants to get familiar with tautology and the infrastructure around it. The audit of the existing health checks for the grace period, that's also something that someone could do just by looking at those strings, like, or even just at the name of the health check and kind of attempting to to deduce what it stands for, and just compile a list and then propose a set of health checks for which a grace period needs to be added, and then it would be unfortunately this would need to be done on a kind of on a per health check basis, because for the grace period deriving the start time, like the start stamp for when the grace period should begin, may not be entirely straightforward. So for example, for the pool app not enabled thing, what was used as the start time is the timestamp for the creation of the pool, the timestamp for that, which we luckily have, but we I don't think we have an existing timestamp for when the OSD upgrade finished fires, right? Because it's it just notices that it does this periodically, notices in the next loop iteration, it notices that all OSDs are running Squid now, and there's no timestamp associated with that, so you need to store that state, or at least keep track of it. You don't need to store it on disk like the pool creation timestamp, but you need to keep track of it, and that that's where, and that might vary from health check to health check. I'm not sure. But that's also a fairly isolated change. So it could be an entirely different person with an entirely different timeline. And finally, the issue that you raised with additional ad hoc warnings or errors that get logged to the cluster log, that is completely independent of all of this, because if there is if something is muted, then if we also want that cluster log warning or error to not be to not be logged because the condition was muted, then this needs to somehow be like attached to the health check or health condition, and we don't have an infrastructure for that. So that's also kind of independent because that would need to be added and could be added even with the existing code or with the previous two things that I just not being picked up. So I think these are, even though it's kind of the theme is the same, these seem like at least three different tasks to me in three different areas. The tautology task is definitely completely separate. There might be some overlap with the changes that would be needed to introduce like a starting timestamp for a health check. Maybe that could be generalized and actually be done just generically in the health check code. And then some way to attach cluster log warnings or somehow delay them and put them kind of in the context of the health check. There is some overlap there, but not much, at least the way I see it. I'm just trying to kind of compartmentalize this so that this isn't something that, so that different people can work on this, especially the tautology bit, because I think that would be that's the easiest to implement and the one that would kind of give the most bang for the buck in terms of alleviating the pain, because that would take care. It wouldn't take care of those ad hoc warnings or errors that you mentioned, but it would take care of the descriptions that are associated with the health check, and those are really obnoxious because they're just free-form strings, and you have no way of discovering them other than by running dozens of iterations of the job, or by carefully looking at the code and reconciling those output stream statements, which is not that easy.
I'm wondering if the task or the new task that we're talking about, if that would end up replacing the log ignore list, or if that would be a supplemental. I'm not sure yet, but I was wondering if there might be anything covered by the log ignore list that like can't be muted for some reason.
I think it would need to be supplemental because I don't think we would be able to attach every single cluster log warning or error, which may need to be ignored now in the future, to a health check. I mean, that might be a goal worth having, but realistically, probably not going to happen. So I see them as being supplemental, and also just to enable migration when the new task is added. I don't think every single component would be switched at once. It would probably be on a per component basis. Someone would be taking care of RBD, someone would be taking care of upgrades, and so having both is probably what we would have to kind of live with. Not because kind of we have to, but because it's just both are useful.
Yeah, makes sense. Any more thoughts for this? All right. I think my thought is we could just create some tickets for that, like a not bug tickets, but enhancement tickets or something, or RFE tickets, however we want to file those. Um, and then Patrick, if those are filed, would you be able to write your thoughts down? Because I was thinking, I don't really know of a particular example of what you were mentioning, so I'd want to make sure that's written somewhere so we don't forget what you were saying there.
Sure. Feel free to ping me on a ticket once it's made.
Cool. Ilya,
Yeah, I can certainly file a ticket with just excerpts from the from my comment in that pull request. Uh, uh, but there's always, like, with this kind of tickets, there's always a challenge of, like, where, because this would be like under a Ceph project, obviously, but then those tickets which are just under Ceph project but not under, like, one of the components that actively get looked at and tried, often get lost. So anyway, I'll file them, and then if Patrick or others kind of see maybe like a better component for them, or something of that sort, or there are new team members that could take on, for example, the pathology bit, or um, one of the other two. Then, so I mostly just wanted to make all the leads aware of, because I'm sure we've all experienced this, and just wanted to raise this to at least get those tickets filed and so that it's
yeah, I
recorded.
think tech leads can check amongst each team and see if there's anybody who has the bandwidth, and especially like you said, the adding a new task would be a low hanging fruit, so we can make sure to add those low hanging fruit labels. The adding grace periods to the health warnings might be a bit more complex, but definitely the task would be low hanging fruit.
Okay, I think we're done with this topic.
All right, thanks, Ilya. And yeah, if you want to just if you created some tickets, if you could link that on the agenda, I think that would work. And Patrick, I'll ping you too. All right, so that was
Okay, will
the
do.
topic. Oh, thanks. That was the only topic on the agenda. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up in the moment?
I had added one more thing to the agenda if
Oh,
you refresh.
oh, let me take a look at that. Okay, migrating Ceph JSON from Spirit to Boost JSON. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a project from Jesse Williamson, who can't make this call, but I just added it here to raise awareness since we're changing kind of a shared JSON parsing library with other components. Just getting rid of Boost Spirit and using Boost JSON instead.
Yeah, I can explain the motivation if people are curious. Essentially, parts of Boost are not very well maintained, and are maintained mostly for legacy users of pre-modern C++, like C++ '03 and the like. Boost Spirit and Boost MPL are among those. And they are basically repeated sources of difficulty every time we try to upgrade to a new version of Boost. And basically, we can both solve a bunch of problems and get better performance and get a lot more maintainable code by slowly getting rid of them. And since Ceph JSON was the biggest user of Boost, and it was Boost Spirit, it was wrapped up in a nice interface. It seemed the most natural place to start. And we also do get performance benefits from it. That is also a nice benefit.
Thanks, Adam. Is there any kind of potential impacts that the developer community should be aware of?
It shouldn't be. Basically, if you could look at the PR, decide if there's any particular. Actually, what I would appreciate is if the other subsystem maintainers could look at the PR and decide if they're heavy users of Ceph JSON, if they could just run it through a test. I'll ping them on it later. Once we get passing all the RGW tests, I'll ping some other people.
Sure. And aside from that, are you looking for any particular component reviews for this one?
Not in particular, unless Monitor and Manager use JSON heavily, so I'd certainly welcome a review from them.
Yeah, it looks like I see the core group was automatically tagged, so yeah, probably a core person should review it.
Yeah, I think RBD manages to use both Ceph _JSON.h thing and JSON Spirit directly. So yeah, I'll once you have it working for HW, please ping me and I'll run it for the RBD suite.
Thank you. I do have one other issue that I should have added to the agenda. I apologize for forgetting. If everyone's done with this.
Yep, go for it.
I just wanted to bring up the idea and see if anyone had any opposition or discussion about it. We're looking at trying to make the S3 tests repository more maintainable. We have a big backlog of stuff going into it. It's just sort of difficult to synchronize since we have to make sure we have the branch that we're testing and the test that we're testing against synchronized. The question is, essentially, we had been trying to maintain S3 test as sort of a general repository of S3 tests for anyone else who wants it. As far as we can tell, no one else actually particularly wants it. And so we were wondering if people had, like, we're not going to make a decision right away, but I wanted to see if anyone had any thoughts or objections to merging S3 tests into the Ceph source, and just like if we have a fix that includes a fix to both code and the test, we just merge them both into the same PR. It might also be easier because we could potentially not worry so much about maintaining the parts that don't even work on Ceph at all.
Yeah, I do remember a lot of discussions around wanting to build a community of S3 interop around S3 tests. And I do think other projects are using it, at least in some form, just given the issues and pull requests to the repo. It's just that nobody on our team has been maintaining or reviewing or anything.
Okay, so there are actually
only using it for the RGW suite and Toothology and maintaining it just for that. Ali Meredia was kind of the person who was maintaining it in the past, but we've lost him.
Yeah, another possibility is if anyone really, really loves Python, like if there's anyone in the Ceph community who just will go to bat for Python, that would also be, if someone wants to maintain it, that would also be good.
Well, I'm not sure I see. So how does the question of potentially merging it into the Ceph repo to make versioning easier and to make it easier to to merge changes in the same pull request and backport changes also in the same pull request and so on. Does that how does that solve the lack of maintainership? Or are you talking about, as part of this merge, also dropping everything that Ceph is not interested in from that repository?
I was thinking that it would involve dropping everything that Ceph is not interested in. If there is actually a lot more active community engagement in it than I thought there was, that might be something that we might want to reconsider. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to dropping the parts that Ceph isn't considered in, but it seems like it might be worthwhile to at least ask if any of the people trying to get things into it would like to take it over, perhaps. I mean, I feel like those are the possibilities. Either we have to decide we want to run it as a community project and keep it outside Ceph and give it a maintainer, or we should probably merge it into Ceph and not run it as sort of like a broader S3 interop community project. Both are good. One just requires a maintainer.
Yeah, and I can imagine kind of a hybrid where we copy it into the Ceph repo, but then, port changes back to the public repo, but that would also require a maintainer and it's extra work.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of prefer either one or the other to the hybrid, honestly. But at the moment, we weren't going to make a decision right now. We just wanted to solicit feedback, I think, or at least give someone a chance to say, "Oh no, please God, don't," or whatever.
Yeah, managing the tests as a separate repo has been a huge headache pretty much always. And so I think combining it into the Ceph repo, similar to how we did the QA suites long ago, would cut down on a lot of that extra work. And when it's easy to add tests, then we can require tests for a lot more of our PRs and improve test coverage overall.
It might be worth sending an email to the dev list about it if you're wanting to get feedback about any pushback. And
that's a good
you may
idea.
not hear anything back, but it no answer is sort of the means that nobody really has an opinion, but you might get opinions that way.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what opinions we would want other than people volunteering to maintain it. And anyone maintaining it would also have to kind of help guarantee that Ceph's Teuthology suites still pass. And so I think it needs to be somebody in the Ceph community.
But that was all I had to say on the matter.
All right. Anything else that anybody wants to add to the topics we've discussed today, or anything new? All right. If not, we'll end here. And thanks for a good discussion. And we'll see you all next month. Next month will be, I think, the APAC meeting, though. But so it might be a different crowd. But see you all in the future.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.